Hi guys, Kevin here at Strobepro.com, and today I'm going to talk about the Godox Light App. So this is an app that is designed to be used with Godox's various continuous lights. I'm using 3 different lights here today with somewhat different feature sets. So I have the SZ150R. It's a RGB COB LED light. I have the ES45, which is a bicolor panel. And then on the right, I have a TL60 RGB tube light. The reason I've got 3 here is because not all features of the app will work with every light. So if your light is an RGB light, you'll have access to the color features. If it's not, then you won't. But we'll get into that in a moment. So you will need to go to the Apple App Store or the Android Play Store and download the app. The app you are looking for is called Godox Light App, not to be confused with the Godox Photo app, which is for the flashes. When you first open this, you're going to see a demo studio, which is meant to just allow you to explore the features. But since I'm doing a video guide here, there's not much need for that. Step 1, we're just going to need to create our own studio. So I'll hit the big plus, and we're just going to need to give our studio a name. I'm going to call ours Strobepro. There we go. Done. And I'm going to save that. So our studio is called Strobepro. Now I'm going to open that up, and right now there are no lights visible. Now normally if you're used to working with a radio controller or something, you will have to assign your lights to a specific group before you can command them. And to use this app, I'm going to need to deprogram you a little bit. What we're going to do instead is we're going to add the lights individually, and I'll show you why you may or may not want to use the groups afterwards. So to add my lights, I'm going to go to this top right button and click Add. And I'm seeing, well, 4 lights here actually. So I see our SZ150R, the ES45, and the TL60 there. And then there's also a CL10, which is in range. That must be out in our showroom right now. But I'm just going to add the 3 that I have here. And I'm going to click Confirm. Now, if you didn't see your light in this list, if I go to Add and we're not seeing the lights we have in the room, you'll have to verify that your light has its Bluetooth enabled. The app will also need Bluetooth enabled, so make sure that your device, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet, has Bluetooth turned on. And then on your lights, you will also be able to see a reset feature, and that is useful if it is already paired with another device. You'll have to reset it before it'll show up in that list. But now I can see my lights here, and I'm actually able to control them with the app now. If I want, I could even go into these little triple dots here, and I could rename my lights to something a little more concise. I'm just going to leave that for now, but I just wanted to show that that's an option. So why would I want to potentially use groups instead of having these lights available for control individually? Well, if you wanted to, you could, for example, take the 2 RGB capable lights and assign them to the same group. There might be a situation where those lights are equidistant, maybe lighting up a background, and you'd want them to be controlled in the same way. So anything you send to group A, for example, let's just create a group, we'll call it A. Confirm. If I was to take 2 of these lights and assign them to group A, any controls I send to that group would be sent to both lights. Now, the issue here is once I assign those lights to a group, they will be depopulated from this list down below. So I have no way of controlling that light independently. So unfortunately, that's a bit of a limitation with this app, and hopefully Godox will fix that in a future update. You might be a little confused as to what I just said, so let me just show you what I am talking about. So to go to this group and add lights to it, I'm going to click on this little 3-dot symbol here, and then I'm going to click Edit. Now I'm going to click Add, and you'll see the 3 lights we had added available there. So for example, let me take my SZ150R and the TL60 since they can both do RGB, and I will click Confirm. So my A group now has those 2 lights. Now you'll see that I no longer see those lights individually in the list down here. So if I control this group, I'm going to be controlling both of those lights. And let me just give you a little demo of that. I'm going to click on the group, and it's put me into this color picker option by default. I can go back here. You can see there's various controls. So RGBW, HSI, these are just different ways of selecting colors. There are Roscoe and Lee gels that are set as presets. And I've got my Cct Color temperature. For fun, let's just go into HSI. And down here I can adjust my brightness. And you'll see both of those lights are coming on at the same time. And I can move around the color wheel, and they're both responding accordingly. But if I go back to my device list, say I wanted to just turn the TL60 off, I have no way of doing that now. So at this time of this recording, that's kind of a limitation of this app. I would also like to see a way of us just turning all the lights on or off at once without having to assign them to a group. So for now, I think the best way to use this app is actually to not use a group. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to remove, click confirm, and you'll see the lights go back down here. So now I can control all of my lights independently. So for example, that TL60, if I want to turn it off, I can quickly do that from here. And there you see it turned off. And I can also turn it back on, go in here, and control it independently from the others. So at this time, generally speaking, I think you're not going to want to use the groups in this app, which is a kind of counter to what you might be used to. But that's just my personal recommendation. Unless you had two lights that were always going to be in the same role, like two background lights positioned equidistant, like I mentioned. So anyway, let's start talking a bit more about the various control features we have. I'm going to turn off my SZ150R. So we'll just look at the TL60 here. Let's go back in and play with everything we have here. So this HSI wheel, the way it works is pretty simple. The closer I go to the center, the more desaturated the color will be. So if I drag this all the way to the edge, that's maximum saturation. And then I can just move around the wheel to find the color I want. In a lot of these settings, your brightness adjustment is just going to be at the bottom, so you can control that independently of everything. So I'm kind of happy with that green. I like that. Let's click on this top button. I can go RGBW. This is essentially the same thing, just a different way of representing it. Instead of a wheel, you've got this more X and Y type graph. So closer to the top, more desaturated. Closer to the bottom, more saturated. And again, we've got our brightness adjustment at the bottom. Let's go back again. Next, let's check out Cct Color. So this is your white light, and it displays a color temperature in Kelvin. You can go all the way from 2500 Kelvin to 8500 Kelvin. Now, I don't believe this light supports that entire range, so here's an important thing you should note. For example, at my high end here, 8500 Kelvin, I don't think I'll see anything happen with that light until I get below 6500, which is that light's maximum, I'm pretty sure. So just be aware of that. If I want to go cooler than 6500, I'm not just going to see any change, but it will just select the nearest color temperature available. Same thing on the low end. If your light doesn't go all the way down to 2500 Kelvin, just be aware that it's going to stop at its minimum. Now, another feature here is the magenta green shift, which is not available on the TL60. So just be aware that if the feature is not available on your light, moving that slider is not going to do anything. This feature is available, however, on the SZ150R, so we could use that on that light. And once again, of course, we have our brightness at the bottom. So there's not much else to that. There you go. Let's check out what's next here. So gel filters. These are really cool. So what you have here is Lee and Roscoe gels, so you can quickly match those gels if you're using them on your other lights. So these numbers correspond with popular Lee gels if we're under L. So if you're looking through Lee's catalog, you can find these numbers, and that's what those gels are referring to. Now, if you wanted to fine tune, you can also control the hue and the saturation, so you can create a bit of variance if you just want to use one of those gels as a starting point. And then of course we have our brightness again on the bottom. If I click on our gels, we have our Roscoe gels. So same thing, if you're looking in the Roscoe catalog, look for these numbers. These are some of the more popular Roscoe gels. Last, we have custom, and I'm not sure if this is an incomplete feature of the app because I don't see a way of adding custom gels quite yet, but I could be missing something and maybe I'll find them as we go through this some more. For now, I'm not quite sure what to do with that. If I back out here, we also have effects. Now, this is really fun. Some of these effects are for RGB lights and some will be supported by all Godox lights that support this app. But we can cycle through them. They're basically cinematic effects. So for example, if I want to mimic a lightning storm, that's what that looks like. I can adjust the speed here if I want. There's 3 settings, so the effect will happen fastest at 3 and slowest at 1. So I can do that with pretty much all the effects. Here's like a flickering TV. Again, brightness at the bottom. I've got a police car. So there's a whole bunch of different ones here that you can experiment with. And some may or may not be available to your light. On this TL60, I think it's got all of them. But yeah, this is a really great sort of visual representation of these effects rather than trying to find them in the menus on the lights themselves. So I think the app is a great way to manage these. Let's go back. Lastly, we have Color Picker. So what they have here is they've given you a sample photo that you can use, and I'm supposed to be able to poke anywhere I want in here, and you can see it picks a color from there. So if you had a photo, you could actually click on this button, import a photo. You can click on that one if you want to use your camera app and take a picture of something in the room. So if you're trying to color match something for your brand, that's what that's used for. Maybe a little bit of a niche feature. You could always also kind of eyeball things in the HSI mode, I think, but it's still a pretty cool feature. Yeah, so you can see if I poke in different parts of the frames, now I'm getting a brown from those trees in the background. And of course, I've got brightness at the bottom. So that is really it in terms of what you can do here. If I back out though, if I go to my device list, there are a couple more things I can do in here. Obviously, we can turn lights on or off, like we've seen. Let's get into my ES45 here and turn it up. So once you kind of get used to things, it's pretty quickly to move around and change things to your liking. Let's get some color on that TL60. So now I've got all 3 of my lights doing different things. Let's go to the SZ150R and let's turn on an effect. Let's go laser and turn that up. There we go. So yeah, it's really quite convenient to make quick changes, although somewhat difficult to send changes to multiple lights at once unless they are grouped together. And when you do that, you lose the ability to control them independently. I'm going to turn off that SZ150 for now. That's a little distracting. So you see a few other settings at the top here. You do have an update here. If you wanted to update the app from within the app, you can do that. Typically, I'd recommend doing that through the Play Store or through the Apple App Store. I can also save my studio. So if I want to, I can export this studio and save it onto my device. That might be useful if I wanted to grab it at a later time. So I could have settings saved, like all the settings I have here right now. If I was to export this as My Studio One, I can also upload an image for it if I want to. I'm not going to do that though. If I was to import that studio, it's going to bring back all of these settings that I have. So let's try that. I'm going to go to my ES45. I'm going to change the color temperature. We'll go as low as it goes there. I'm going to go to the TL60, and let's pick a different color for it. Go red. I'm going to turn the SZ 150 back on, and I'm going to choose the fire effect for that instead. We'll go slower with that. There we go. Now let's go import, and I see my Studio One there. I'm going to click Apply to Studio. And it takes a moment, but it's brought back the earlier settings we have. Although for some reason that SZ 150 stayed on. I'm just going to toggle that, but there you go. All of the settings that I did apply through these menus were saved, and I was able to retrieve them. So if you're using your lights in many different ways and you want maybe certain RGB settings for certain record sessions, and you want those lights in a different role for another type of recording session, this import-export feature is a really great way to save all of those settings and have them when you need them. Lastly, we have share. So it looks like it's asking us to create an account. So I believe what this does is it allows you to upload your studio to a cloud service. I'm not sure necessarily why you'd want to do that, but if you wanted to share your studio with others, that would be the way to do that. So there you go, guys. That is the simple overview of the Godox Light app. I think the ability to register and save your studios is a really compelling reason to use this. And it does just give you kind of a large, easy-to-use interface when compared to, say, the RC-A6 controller or similar controllers. So it is a nice option for your studio, I think, and all of the Godox continuous lights that are coming out are compatible with this app now. So I think it's well worth using if you haven't already. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'm Kevin at Strobepro.com.